Hi there, everyone. My name is Christian Eschbach, and welcome to another one of my album reviews. And this review is an interesting one because this is an album that is definitely an old album, but as far as a release goes, it's a new album. I am talking about Billion Dollar Baby's Battle Axe. This was originally recorded and released in 1977, at least according to the back here. Now, there was problems with the original mix and everything like that. There's allegations of inside tampering to purposely cause this album to fail. Who knows? I don't like to talk about that stuff, but this album kind of didn't do as well as it should have. Okay, and when I listened, my first introduction to anything from this album was actually on the Alice Cooper box set, and I'll explain all of this in a second. The Alice Cooper box set had a song from Billion Dollar Babies called I Miss You. As and the reason why it was on the Alice Cooper box set is it featured Alice Cooper doing background vocals on the first album from the side band Billion Dollar Babies. The side band Billion Dollar Babies is when the original group split up. Alice took on the moniker to himself as opposed to it being the name of the group. And then Micheal Bruce, Dennis Dunnaway, and Neil Smith went, and we're talking about the rhythm section basically of the original Alice Cooper group, went and formed a new band. And they brought along Bob Dolan on keyboards and synth, and Bob Dolan had actually been playing with the band in the studio and live since like about mid 92 ish. And Mike Marconi, who I have no clue who Mike Marconi is, but he came in as the lead guitarist, and he's pretty damn good. This album, when I compare like I Miss You on this version versus I Miss You on the Alice Cooper box set, the mix on the Alice Cooper box set sounds a little fuller, a little richer, a little thicker, a little more to it. Like they punched up the levels on it a little. This album, for some reason, it feels like they didn't bother to punch up the levels on it like they should have to do it a proper remastering, and it was kind of upsetting to me that they didn't. This is also a 3-disc special edition, so this review is going to run a little long. The first disc is the actual Battle Axe album, which I'm going to get into in a moment, followed by the demos, and then that's followed by the live show. And we'll get into this as we go. So, let's start talking about the songs on the first album. So the first disc, basically it looks the exact same. I do love the laser looking axe kind of thing going on here. This was, as I said before, done in 77, and it would have been technically being written and recorded around the same time Star Wars is being written and recorded. As sci-fi Star Wars-y as this is, kind of, sort of, it's not inspired in any way from Star Wars at the time, but there would have been other sci-fi inspirations for sure. Anyways, let's move on. Songs. Too Young kicks off this album. This one's an interesting mix of punk vocals. You know, the delivery on the vocals definitely have more of a punk vibe and flavor to them. They're kind of a little raw, aggressive. But the music and the overall arrangements and that kind of give it a little bit of a glam and proggy kind of feel at the same time. Kind of like the Ramones meet, I don't know. I don't have a glam side to put to that, maybe. Maybe a little Bowie-ish, not quite though. Bowie's definitely feels wrong on that front. Sweet, maybe, for the glam side. Anyways, kicks it off really well. I don't mind it. Kind of feels like a little bit of an odd selection for the first track, just because of it, how kind of musically jarring it can be at times with its changes and that. Shine Your Love. Okay, so this one to me has this kind of inspirational rock kind of vibe to it. Think like Spirit in the Sky from Norman Greenbaum, or Jesus All Right With Me from the Doobie Brothers, you know. Not to say that it's, the exact same idea, but it does. It has that shine your love, just really got that whole kind of inspirational rock kind of vibe to it. That's how I feel when I hear it. It's really cool. I don't mind it. Um, I will come back around to this one a little bit on one of the other discs, but the whole way around kind of groovy. I Miss You. All right, so I've already mentioned this in regards to the box set. Now, I really do prefer the way that the levels are set on the one on the box set. The mixing that was done on it sounds really good. I wish that would have been what was done on here. Unfortunately, it wasn't. But the big thing with I Miss You is the guitar riff in the beginning. There are certain guitar riffs, especially with the Alice Cooper band, that don't get the props that they deserve. One of my favorites is the Muscle of Love intro, which was actually written by Mick Meshabeer, who was kind of subbing in for Glenn Buxton on the lead guitar on the Muscle of Love album. And as the Muscle of Love one has a great riff. Honestly, great riff. Sets that song off perfectly. Well, this one, there's this great little tapping going into the riff. It just really great kind of riff to it, and it just goes into this blistering kind of song. The only downside I could say is, unfortunately, due to the overuse of Baby in the 80s, when you get to the chorus, you get to the baby, I miss you. When are you coming home? You've been gone for so long. It gets a little kissy, like it does. There's a little bit in there. It sounds a little bit like Kiss, but it's a really good tune, man. Like, this song is just blistering. I love it, and really could have been one hell of a monster hit for them back in the day if it had been mixed just properly and released back in the day as a single. Uh, um, that's followed up by a standard kind of slow song. Your basic, I would refer to it as a ballad, but it's not really a ballad in the traditional sense. It's, just like a slow ballad. Not quite power ballad, but, getting to those days where the power ballads start up. And Wasn't I the One is the name of the track, if I didn't say it already. And I'm not a fan of this one. But if you're one of my regular viewers, you know how I feel about these type songs. Love Is Rather Blind follows that up, and that one's really nothing special. It's an album filler to me, as far as I'm concerned. Rock and Roll Radio. This tune's really cool. I think Rock and Roll Radio, for the most part, would have been perfect for Alice Cooper to do as a cover on the Rock Detroit Stories album. It would have fit in there perfectly. It's got that entire sound that, like the whole way around, it just has that sound. There's kind of a bit of a New York kind of vibe into this as well. When you listen to bands like the Ramones, when you get into this like second, third album or whatnot, and you listen to Kiss when they're still in the 70s and whatnot, there's definitely a distinctive kind of sound in New York rock. And Rock and Roll Radio has that in it as well. But it easily could have been done on Detroit Stories, and it's just really cool rock kind of vibe to it, man. Really cool rock kind of vibe. Dance With Me follows that up, and it sounds exactly like how you'd expect a song called Dance With Me to sound. Rock Me Slowly. This is yet another slow song, but this one is to me is a bit nicer, and I like it more than I liked the previous slow song on the album. This one, the whole way around, feels a little fuller and just more tender, you know. After that, we get into what would be considered the Battle Axe Suite. It's not listed that way on here, but when you get into the live stuff, it actually is. And when you look at how the demos are done and how the demos for these were originally recorded, there's differences in there as well. or that help explain this, I should say, sorry. Differences that compared to what ends up on the final product. Okay, so the final product, the suite's broken up into 4 tracks. All right, separately listed, actual proper 4 tracks. First one is Egomania. This is an instrumental piece. This is really good. Oh my god, it clocks in just under 3 minutes. Really, really good instrumental piece. Like, it reminds you why the Alice Cooper band were the musicians that they were. Highly underrated musicians. Highly underrated. There's parts of this that kind of remind me of Edgar Winter's Frankenstein, although this is not in any way like Frankenstein. There's just certain parts of it, certain kind of vibes and nuances that kind of remind me of it a little bit. But it's its own separate, completely separate beast. From there, we go into the album title track, Battle Axe. This one's a complex number, okay? It's got a multitude of different passages, various arrangements throughout it to create a narrative. Musically, and even with the effects they put on the vocals, it gives it a very sci-fi driven kind of sound. You know, you get that whole sci-fi element going on, and the whole fantasy element as well as the battle axe and whatnot. This song sounds like it would be perfectly at home in a Flash Gordon, or, you know, Buck Rogers or something like that. Like, it just, especially the 70s, you know, kind of got that whole exploration of the electronic, robotic, sci-fi, electric age kind of thing going on, while still, you know, keeping it raw and fantastical with, you know, battle axe fighting and arena battles and stuff like this, right? Then you go into Sudden Death, which is a little musical filler. And when it's Sudden Death, it's actually just in brackets. More or less, it's supposed to be either like a tail end to Battle Axe, or it's supposed to be an intro to the next track. But they decided to keep it as its own kind of little separate track, just to hopefully maybe get the other ones a little more radio play. I would think would be the idea behind it in the earlier days. And that does go into the track Winner. Now, the thing with the song Winner is this song really definitely could have been a 70s radio hit for sure. Not one that necessarily would have carried over throughout the years, but it definitely would have been a 70s radio hit. Winner is, but it would definitely need trimming still. It needs a proper radio edit still. Because, like, the first minute, 2 minutes is just kind of more instrumental stuff going on. I really dig Winter to a degree. I think it's the perfect finish for the album. I think it sets off this whole album and closes it out just perfectly to me. I really would love to get my hands on the original recording or original tracks to try and remix it, you know, give it new life, make the mix sound a little more appealing to my ear. More like what it sounds like on the Alice Cooper box set, because this really, really is a good album. And I really do think that I Miss You is a song that if it had hit the radio back in the day, it would have carried forward to today and would still be a huge hit today. I really do honestly believe that. The rest of this album definitely would be for fans, would be for people that like listening to actual albums. Like I said, a good radio single could have been made out of Winter as well. But this is definitely an album made by a band that likes to make albums. All right, so I'm going to move on to the next disc, but leave me your comments. Let me know what you think of this actual album. Did you own a copy of the vinyl back in the day? Was it as messed up as they said? I personally have never owned a copy of the vinyl from back in the day. There probably is a copy of the vinyl from now. I should maybe check into that, because that could be interesting, worth listening to. Maybe it sounds better on there. Sometimes that happens. All right. Comments. Like button, subscribe button, bell for notifications. Moving on to the next disc. All right, so here we are. We are on to the $1 Billion Babies Battle Axe Demos disc. Now, it's a proper demos disc, okay? So you can definitely tell the production differences between these songs and the songs that are actually on the album. What is cool about this demos disc, though, is the fact that there are a multitude of songs that aren't on the album. So you're actually getting to hear stuff that's never been released before, never been heard before outside of like this demo stuff. The sad part is there's a couple songs on here that damn, it's a total damn shame that they have never been released. So let me get into this. All right. So we start off with Shine Your Love. This is really raw and stripped back. It's just good, really good riff rock. So if you, when I was talking about it previously on the actual album, I was saying how it has a very inspirational kind of rock kind of sound. Like, ah. Now here is more kind of on the rock, riffing on the rock part of it instead. And I actually kind of like the stripped back version of it. And if I were to try and do a recording of it, I'd probably base it more off of the stripped back demo version of it. Just because it does have that raw kind of feel, more of that rock kind of feel. Then we get into Miss You. That burning riff I was talking about before, man. That intro riff. That. Oh, great, man. And what's really cool with this is I'm assuming that when they were recording this, the demos, they were using a portable recorder and they were probably doing it around the house. The lead vocals, it sounds like they recorded it in a tiled bathroom. It sounds great. It's got this cool little cold. It gives it that cold, crisp, echoey kind of vibe that just is really cool. The only downside is that mixed against the chorus, which is just normal chorus sung in a nice warm room kind of thing. It really sounds different. It's too drastic, but you can see what they were trying to go for when they were doing this demo, and it's really kind of cool. That goes to Wasn't I the One? I kind of like the music on this one a little bit better than I did on the original, or on the studio, the album version, sorry, the official release version. Dance With Me is just kind of more of the same. Want to Go Home. This is the first song that is not on the actual Battle Axe album, and it is a damn shame because this song is friggin' epic, man. I can see why it was left off this album, because this mixed with the whole Battle Axe suite would have been too much. Would have been way too much. Would have pushed him definitely into the double album range, or range as well. Like, to put all these demos on here, would have put him in the double album range. And coming out with a double album on your first go, that's pretty impressive. But I think it would have been too much. Definitely makes sense kind of that they held it back. The downside is they held it back. And it really hopefully should have been on the follow-up, which would happen, because this song's got this really cool vibe. The first thing that came to mind while I was listening to the vibe on this was kind of Led Zeppelin's No Quarter. And it just got that cool, trippy, experimental, scary, ominous kind of vibe to it. Just really kind of cool. And it really sucks that it's never gotten a proper recording and release. That's something I'd love to hear. Then we get into Love Is Rather Blind. It's a demo. I don't see a need for it to go on any album. I wasn't overly impressed. Rock Me Slowly. Rock Me Slowly is kind of like the perfect mix between what the studio or what the album version sounds like and what the live mix sounds like. It's kind of like this good little mix in the middle of the two of them. And, so it's got a little bit of a, it's got that rawness to it, that more simplistic kind of vibe to it. But you can still hear the whole song in there. It's kind of nice. Rock and Roll Prison. No, wait, I mixed them. I missed the song. Sorry, I mixed. Okay, so on here, Battle Axe, Sudden Death, and Winter are all one song recorded together. So the whole egomania is not even really represented there. It is a little bit in the beginning. I think it got flushed out a little more, possibly. It's nice to hear like kind of the three tracks together, but honestly, what you get on the final album is way better. It's flushed out more. It's got more vibe to it, more feel. I enjoy it more. Then we go on to Rock and Roll Prison, and this one literally sounds like a Doors song. And it's really cool because at first, when you hear the vocals, it kind of sounds like this could have been even a Doors demo somewhere around the same time period as Morrison Hotel, possibly. Uh, it's definitely kind of got like a Roadhouse Blues kind of vibe to it going on. It's good old kind of bluesy rock going on, and really another song that should be recorded and released as a proper song. I think it would be great. Runaway Instrumental follows that up, and this is one of those songs where it sounds like it was a song that they never got lyrics done for on time. It sounds like it could have been a really good song. They had a really, like, instrumentally, it's got this great foundation. It just sounds like they recorded this whole thing, got this great instrumental, and just didn't have time to finish it off and put in vocals into it. That's really how it sounds to me. Like, it's, and then they just left it off the album because they didn't want to put another instrumental track on the album. I don't know, babe. I'm not sure what was going on with this one. Wallow Through This Madness. This one feels a bit album fillerish. I think it would have been good on a second album, but it would have been kind of one of those cuts that just kind of, it's great while you're listening to it, but that's about it. Only One Will Walk Away. Great instrumental. Yet again, this is another instrumental track, and it really good. Parts of it definitely got incorporated, I believe, in a Battle Axe. One of the different parts of it, or one of the 4 different parts of the suite. And I really, honestly, One Will Walk Away, I think, is really good in its entirety in here, and I'd love to get my hands on the original recording and see if I can master it out and make it sound better, flush it out a little bit, make it sound a little more modern, like have a little more punch to it, bring up the levels just a little bit kind of thing. Just really good. And High Heels Hollywood is yet another song that would have sounded really good to me if it were redone on the Detroit Stories, except for, being High Heels Hollywood. And there already being another song about high heels on there. But this is a great album cut if it was done right. It may not have been a single, but it is definitely one of the songs that people would go, oh man, I love that song off that album. It's a great song, really good. It would have been definitely one of those songs. And that's the demos. We're gonna move on to the last album, and before we do that, let me know what you think in the comments. Have you listened to these demos? What do you think would have been better off on the album? What would you have traded off if you had the ability to do a trade off for the album? Anyways, also don't forget about the like button, the subscribe button, that little bell for notifications. All right, moving on. All right, now on to the last one, $1 Billion Babies Live. This is first ever live show from the band. Flint, Michigan, on the 6th of July, 1977. I wasn't even born yet. I wasn't even conceived yet. I was only about 6 months away from conception, but, anyways. Moving on. So, the live set opens up with I Miss You. Great way to open up the live set. The downside is, man, this recording is raw and rough. There's like no bass. You can barely hear the bass in this thing at all. It's basically like crystal clear. It sounds like it was recorded from one side of the stage, and it was the side that had one guitar on it, and you could hear the drums coming through, and you can hear the vocals, and then the bass and the other guitar were on the other side of the stage. That's how the recording sounds. And it kind of really sucks because I would have loved to have heard a really good, super quality live recording, like a proper recorded live mix of this to hear how blistering it is. Because, I mean, when you listen to this with the crowd going and everything in there, it sounds like it would have been a really good show. I would love to have seen this show, man. It's really a shame that things just fell apart the way they did with the $1 Billion Babies. It really does suck. But I Miss You kicks off the album really good. I love the way that it just gets that blistering pace going right off the bat. Rock and Roll Radio, interestingly enough, well, being a very upbeat song, kind of takes it down a notch, but it takes it into a mode where you're going from like, what would be a good. You're kind of, going from like listening to Megadeth's Countdown to Extinction album to, listening to AC/DC's Razor's Edge album, and just kind of that shift down, but you're still kind of going in the same gear, sort of. It's kind of weird how to describe that. But yeah, Love is Rather Blind follows that up, and I think it has a better vibe live than it does in the studio. Um, Rock Me Slowly. Rather listen to the album studio version than the live version. Then this here, it has the Alice Cooper medley, No More Mr. Nice Guy, Elected, and School's Out. The thing is, and I don't know why they put up just the 3 tracks as listed in this medley, because there's actually 5 Alice Cooper tracks in this medley. You get, it opens up with actually Hello Hooray. So you get the actual intro, the okay. They do just a little bit of it. Enough where I can see it was kind of left out. And then all of a sudden it goes into the No More Mr. Nice Guy. It goes once again, another great blistering guitar riff. And then No More Mr. Nice Guy actually goes into a drum solo, which turns into Elected, which is then followed by 18, and then School's Out. And I'm not sure why they leave 18 off, because they perform a fair amount of 18 as well. It's really weird. But once again, that medley would have sounded really hella good if it had had a better recording. Then you go into the Battle Axe suite with Egomania, Battle Axe, Knights in Cracked Leather. Oh no, sorry, Egomania and Battle Axe. That's followed by Knights in Cracked Leather, Sudden Death and Winter. Knights in Cracked Leather. I'm not sure what the hell. This one, it sounds like it's tape being played. It doesn't sound like the band's on stage playing or anything like that. That's how it sounds like to me, like a tape's being played or something else. Then you get into Sudden Death and Winter. And Winter probably would actually have been better if I had actually been at the concert. Like the whole thing, the whole way around, the way, like you can kind of hear the way the show's going, right? And that whole sequence, starting off with Egomania going all the way through to Winter, that definitely would have been a live stage show thing, because it on here it doesn't play out right on the live recordings. From there you go into Too Young, which, nothing to really add on this one. And then finishes off with $1 Billion Babies. I mean, really, you got to kind of have to do that, right? It sounds cliche, but it's kind of the way it's got to be. And if the song wasn't already hard enough to play, you got Neil Smith now taking the tempo up a little bit faster, even, man. Instead of the more boom tap tap to boom tap da 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 da, it's a boom tap tap to boom tap da 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 da, boom tap tap to boom tap da diddly. Man, dude just knows how to stick it to you. So that's a whole overlook of $1 Billion Babies. The booklet really, it's got some notes and stuff like that in here, which is really cool. There's some stuff in here to read. A little bit of an interview, a little bit of some pictures, band, stuff like that. This red here is part of the album artwork that's not properly showing on here because of the way they did the back cover. It's closer to what the original cover was. Speaking of artwork as well, that was on the original album, that was, I believe, part of it as well, and so was that. These were placed on the back, and then this was placed also somewhere on there, I believe. I don't recall 100%. I've seen pictures of it online once or twice, but it's been so long I don't remember. I loved the idea. When I saw this in the store, I almost pooped my pants. I was like, oh my god, they released it. I was like, I didn't even know it was coming out. I hadn't heard anything about it. And I saw it in the store, and I crapped myself, and I got home, and I threw it on, and I was all stoked, and I was like, what the hell? I was kind of let down because of the production value of it. And the production value is the worst part of this album. I really think they should have done a better job with remastering it for this release. That's my views, my thoughts, my opinions. Now, I could be wrong, and maybe the way to go would have been to go with the vinyl version. Maybe the vinyl version sounds better, has more oomph to it, has more of that sound that I was hoping to hear out of this. I can only guess. Anyways, folks, let me know what you think the whole way around about this whole thing. Remember, that's what the comment section is for. Hit that like button, the subscribe button, the bell for notifications. There is a link also down below that will take you over to my Patreon. You can throw me some money that way. Peace, love, take care.